Oh, I remember. I remember when I first heard about the game. I was skeptical because I felt the quality of the Final Fantasy franchise was declining. I got Final Fantasy XI for my birthday in 2003 and ended up playing with my boyfriend. We leveled, role-played, started a Ling Shell together, made friends, and even got married. But apparently, I was blinded by what was happening around me, and my boyfriend left me for a girl in the game. He divorced me in game after a month and moved out in real life to see that girl in Texas. I lost all interest in playing MMOs out of fear of a repeat process. But after so many failed relationships, I ended up deciding to be single for the rest of my life after that. Then I heard about Final Fantasy XIV. I was already depressed from the lack of any real friends, real love, and real trust in anyone. But I wanted to give it a try, so I did. I was invited to the last beta of 1.0, and it seemed like a good game to play. Once release hit, let's just say the game's bugs came out like a hot pocket full of maggots. Which, after seeing that, I won't be able to eat a hot pocket for a bit. So I picked the server, and it was Besaid because my sister said if there was a server about getting laid, I should join it. So Besaid was close to getting laid, and that's how that happened. When I started, I wanted to make friends. I wanted to have a Ling Shell that I can be dedicated to. I met a Mikote in charge of a Ling Shell after singing through the streets of Holda. And she liked my in-character singing. She invited me into her Ling Shell, and I got really involved with the Ling Shell. We talked, we danced, we laughed, we did a couple of role plays. She found out after a conversation over voice that I could sing in real life, and she wanted me to make music. She offered what she wanted, and I was making a song for her. But she disappeared. I was told she had computer problems, so I wasn't really minding by it, but the more I waited for her, asking people have they seen her, the more stories I got about her. Apparently, her boyfriend ran the Ling Shell originally, and she decided to play and took it over, and people were upset about it and wanted to revolt. So I started to sense a sign of drama, which unfortunately grew and got onto Facebook for everyone else to see. When she finally contacted me about the music, she decided to go for someone else, which was kind of a kick in the pan for me, but I accepted. The Ling Shell fell apart, and I went back to wandering. I don't know, and I don't remember how, but eventually I ended up in another Ling Shell. At that point, I was scared to open up, but I tried my best to make my character worth role-playing with, but unfortunately I was by myself again. I was ridiculed by my Mikote's family history, having a human name and a dust white for a father. I was told to change so much about my character, even up to her personality. I was a conservative Mikote, and I was told that that's not possible, that I should have been a hero for that because it was more feasible. I was also labeled as a non-RPer because I didn't want to roleplay as a slut, as they would call the Mikote. I'm a conservative Miko by my right. I'm sorry if I'm stuttering. I have a small stuttering impeachment. Either way. Anyways, one guy did try to roleplay with me, and the leader yanked him off and told him I didn't roleplay. So I was pretty much isolated in the guild. They talked a lot, but I was never invited to any of the roleplay events that they had, and since most of them I was too low level for, or people were told I didn't RP when I do. No one ever offered a chance. So I went back into depression. There was one person who made me a little happy on Visay, though. And surprisingly, that was a girl playing a guy. I think her name was Kiyone, but she called herself Squid. She was always in pain, fighting cancer. And she took the time out to roleplay with me. Not only once, but twice. We always understood the pain that we were going through internally, even though I didn't have cancer. I had a condition called menometrorrhagia, which is unexplained internal bleeding. And usually it's caused to over severe, massive stress of the body and the immune system breaking apart. So she and I had an understanding of what we were going through, and we were going to fight it to the very last breath. I loved her, not in a romantic way, but she was a very good person to me. I was hospitalized, somewhere in 1.0, I think in July, and I came back a little bit after December and January. I didn't get to talk to Alicia and Mumble till then, and I didn't see Squid on. So I asked if anyone had seen her, and everyone got really quiet. No one told me anything. So I questioned again, and one of the higher-ups pretty much yelled at me and told me she died the night before Christmas, and that I should have known that if I was on the forums, and that I cared. I was kind of hurt at the interjection. It did sound like I didn't care to know about Squid, and that I brought up the pain to hurt people, which really isn't true. I didn't have Squid on everything like the rest of the Link Shell. I didn't know her previously before that. I felt like an asshole. So I cried, and I broke down. The only friend I had was taken from me, and I felt like I pissed everyone off. No one would RP with me. No one would talk to me. Every time I came onto Mumble, people sighed that I was there. So I really felt like a Buzz Killington. And I left so they could be free to do what they want and not have to deal with me. I ended up saying screw it, and I didn't want to roleplay anymore with anybody because no one wanted to, and I ended up making 2 alts and roleplayed with myself, making a story and linking them together like a Yorsi and Triforce, which doesn't make sense, but I didn't care. I was pretty outed, and I just wanted to be happy in my own little bubble at that point. I always had people to talk to, but I was too scared to roleplay with them after everything I've been through. Most of them were in Link Shells that I was in, and didn't really talk to me in the first place, so... Not to mention, most of them had, intimidating paragraphical roleplay. And being a Yahoo chat room roleplayer, we were normally kicked for not being able to keep up, or even putting the amount of paragraphs that we could. So I don't know if the rule applied in Final Fantasy XIV, because 1, no one ever taught me the lore. No one ever taught me anything that I should know as a role player at the time. In 11, I did vocal roleplay, which was role-playing using a voice chat and just emoting while you're talking. No one else does that except me and my boyfriend and the small group of Link Shells I had at the time, back in 11. So other than that, I was pretty much new to a lot of the roleplay that was going on, so... My depression went really bad. My immune system broke down, and I was bleeding to death internally. I was hospitalized again until I was stable, which was at the end of November. I found out they were closing the server, and they were remaking 14. But I wasn't looking forward to it, because of the stuff that happened to me. No one really cared. People ostracized me. I really didn't want to play anymore. I didn't like the whole clickiness that I had to go through. The trials and tribulations of trying and then just being slapped in the face for nothing. No one to help, everyone to ridicule. Besaid was a horrible place to be for me. Then I found out through an email that I was invited to the 2.0 beta. And that was due to my sister wanting me to cheer up and sending in my email and applying me for it. I sighed, and I can't really hate my sister for it because she was just trying to help, but I didn't really want to play on Besaid anymore. I found out later it was called Balmung, which unfortunately that was awesome because I love Norse mythology. Poor Fafnir. Anyways, I decided to pick a new server and avoid Balmung. I was so terrified to run into the trauma, so I changed my name. And I joined a server named Gilgamesh because, I mean, what the fuck? Gilgamesh was awesome. And I started anew. I was still shy, extremely scared. But then I ran into a Lalafell that I liked talking to back in 1.0. I totally forgot that I was incognito and called him out and hugged him. His name was Urianul. He was surprised to see me again and asked why I was under an alias. And I totally forgot. I had a small panic in my soul, but I felt like Urianul will actually understand, so I told him why. And he understood completely. He still quizzically said, well, you're on a different server now, and I'm just like, well, better safe than sorry. He gave me a pearl to a link shell he was in and told me that this group is actually pretty amazing. The link shell was called Intermission. Cute. That's usually the time I go and get snacks in the movie theater. So, why the fuck not? I was surprised. People greeted me, hugged me, taco rolls and such. I was very welcomed, which scared me in its own right. I wasn't planning on such a warm welcome, and then I keep forgetting I'm not my old character anymore. I'm not on that horrible server anymore. So I tried to start off strong with a more forward personality. Then I got on Mumble and my voice shriveled up like I was Annie. I was pretty much Annie status, voice-wise. If you don't know who Annie is, it's a character from League of Legends. I have a very emotional voice, so depending on my moods, my voice tends to shift based upon how I feel. So I have a very frightened voice, so it hides when I'm talking to new people and then opens up when I get to know them. It also tends to disappear around attractive men. I hate that so much. I have a horrible poker face, sadly. Anyhow. I had fun with everyone there. I made friends. I actually got to do events. People talked to me despite being a recluse. Someone understood that it's frightening to, be around so many OG role players that they would open up to the new ARC peers and get them acquainted. I found out that they were going back to Balmung, and I was starting to slowly be sad again. I didn't want to go back to Balmung. I didn't. I didn't want to relive the pain that I did. But the group on Mumble assured me that I didn't have to worry about it. That if people started causing drama and bullshit, I can just block them and just ignore them. True, it's a shame that I had to change my name because of the past, but I believe it's for the best. To start anew with new friends and no drama or trauma. I gave in and accepted I'm stuck with this awesome lot. The first set of people I had fun with were Alotheus Darkwood, Zariah Reynard, and Zinjagger. We all ended up doing a 3 Thaumaturge, 1 Pugilist, 3 Dungeon Run because, we didn't have any tanks on in our guild in our Grand Company or Link Shell. Guild Shell. We didn't have any tanks on to play, and no one was on to do a dungeon run. There were originally just me, Zariah, and Zin at the time, but then we grabbed Alothia for the ride, and while we were dungeon running, I started staring at Zin's last name when my sister's radio started playing moves like Jagger. Then it hit me. I started making lyrics while we were fighting in the dungeons. And that included Zen Jagger's name using the song. And I made a rough draft parody of our dungeon run. It's called Come Tank for Us, Zen Jagger. It was hilarious. People liked the work. And I was happy. I was feeling more and more comfortable and involved in the Link Show. Alothia. Alothia is one of the few women in my life that I can talk to and not have to worry about her talking about me bad or backstabbing me. I really like her a lot. She's honest and real. And if something bothered her, she would say such. I respect her a lot, and I hope I get to keep her as a really good friend, and if the future allows it, the best friend. She introduced me to Cards Against Humanity. They said it was a more adult version of Apples to Apples, in which I didn't play that either. So we got to play, and there was a card in my deck. It was called Smegma. I don't like not knowing what my cards mean, so I googled it, and I was mortified. I used the card because I didn't want it in my deck anymore, and I apologized because I googled it. My card was actually chosen as an answer, and people were laughing and saying, I'm so sorry that you had to Google it. But it was hilarious. The more I played the card game, though, the more corrupted I got, and the more open I slowly started to be. Then we had karaoke night, in which I learned there were a lot of singers in our group, including Alothia. Alothia sings very beautifully. I offered a collaboration, so I hope we get to do one together. I got to see her over a cam version of Cards Against Humanity, too. She is very beautiful. Her husband's a lucky son of a bitch, too. I'm an equal opportunity complimenter. I have no problem telling a woman how pretty they are, and how if I was a guy, I'd date her. Or fuck her. I'm straight as I can be, but I can be open-minded with my opinions, and Alothia is really beautiful. Fine, I would date her if I was a guy and she wasn't married. Zariah Reynard is a hoot. She really is a hoot. She's really fun to be with, and she's also fun when you least expect it. She tends to joke about and put smiles on people's faces. I want to talk to her more on Mumble, because I miss the antics that were there. I hope to keep talking to her for a while, and I hope she's alright. Zen Jagger. He's very blunt, tactless, and sometimes very prideful, but as I talk and get to know him, I learned that not everyone's perfect, and if you let someone know some things are a little, too soon, he will acknowledge and apologize. P.S. He really loves that Come Tank for a Zen Jagger song. Vash Ashford. Vash Ashford. He was hilarious. His personality is also so very random. He played Final Fantasy VII for the first time, and we led him to the surprise choice in the Honeybee Inn. Considering that's a spoiler, and for those who hasn't actually played Final Fantasy VII yet, I won't spoil it, but his reactions were epic. We laughed so hard, and I enjoyed being around him and his funny Jersey accent he always puts in. He's such a silly goose. Then there was Belisar Starkwood. Oh, Belisar. Where do I start? He was telling us about his character, and he showed us all a picture to ask an opinion for it. Needless to say, I looked at it, and my blush, my fluster, along with my hair going poof, was all heard. His character was gorgeous. He has blonde, wavy hair. He wears glasses. He's a male Mikote, and when his ear wiggles, I squeak because it's so adorable. I was way too embarrassed to talk. He's a really good person, and I hope to have many adventures with him in game. It's possible I might be a little smitten with him as a whole, and not just his character, but I wouldn't want to overstep boundaries. I respect people's feelings and opinions. Which reminds me, I remember a conversation about Alothia bringing her husband to play and how he would play as her brother. So, went into mine because Belisar is Alothia's brother. And I realized I had to eventually apologize for ogling like that and know my place. I wouldn't want anyone else to do that to mine. And I didn't want to lose the happiness I had in the link shell with Alothia and with Belisar. And I cried, thinking that I might have fucked up. Totally. So I spoke to Para, very good guy in the guild, and knows Alothia personally, about it. After telling him, he laughed his ass off, and I was confused and stopped mid-worry. I was literally had tears sitting on my eyelids as I blinked, trying to figure out what was so funny about it. He told me Belisar is Alothia's brother, but the guy isn't her husband. He was another person. My face was like 1,000,000 times red from embarrassment. Eventually, Alothia heard, and I had no words. So, I assumed that Alothia and Para already told Belisar, so I went to apologize, and he had no idea what I was talking about. And I suddenly felt like having shoelace soup, because now I had to tell him what had happened. So, we had a small conversation about my assumption, and he laughed about it, and I got to know him more. He's a very understanding guy. Moving on. Vermont was probably the most interesting of the guy lot. Over Mumble, he's a very nice guy. In-game, he was as intimidating as all hell. He called me Bookworm when I met him. I mean, eventually upgraded that to glasses, but he's really scary in-game. But he's fun on Mumble, and it was awesome to see that kind of change in roleplay. Para is a funny guy. I thought he was a Lalafell. Turned out he was a human. Who'd have thought? He's awesome at singing. That one's for you, Para. He makes everyone else who are afraid to sing have the courage to, and I admired that about him. He also keeps people happy with his antics and jokes and funniness, and he likes making faces on camera. He also seemed to do his own fair share of adorable pouting and whining. I'm glad to have met him, and I can't wait to see him play Final Fantasy VII for the first time. That's going to be fun! Inja was another interesting woman whom I got to talk to. She doesn't roleplay with people much, and I tried my best to open up for her, but I'm kind of a recluse, so it's kind of hard. She's really cool to talk to, and she's really adorable. Her personality is very sweet, and she's a bit on the innocent side, which makes her more adorable. Kind of want to pinch her cheeks sometimes, or at least play with her ears and tail. Mia Vara is probably the most forward female I met in a good way. She doesn't take she takes no shit, and she will not talk to you if you disrespect her. I like her aggressiveness and personality as well. I have to RP with her in the future. Oh, I can go on and on about each and every person, and I do apologize if I didn't put you out there. Please don't pout to me. Please don't whine. I'm so sorry. It's just I didn't have the time to actually write all this, but I don't want to take up so much time, so I'll just put in my final words. Final Fantasy 2.0 has drastically changed my entire life. From my entire physical depression, my emotional depression, and changed it 180, completely around. I've also changed my entire outlook of life by both the game itself and the people around me, the friends I made. I want to thank Intermission and Corvus Sinus and Aes Sedai Tower, as well as Blue Skies, for letting me in and accepting me. And I thank Nell for the opportunity to do this. And I'm so sorry that this was such a long story. Well, I hope Kiyone gets to meet you all soon.